Los aranceles van a reemplazar el income tax.
You know, you're the only one that's asked me that. Oh, I deal with all these big financial geniuses. Nobody ever asked. There is a chance that the money from tariffs could be so great that it would replace, you know, in the old days, about 1870 to 1913, the tariffs were the only form of money. And that's when our nation was relatively the richest. We were the richest.
President Trump says that he relied on his tariff policies to make all of this happen. In October, tariffs brought in $33 billion. That's a 316% increase from October of 2024. Now,
when was America great?
This is Howard Lutnick, and he was telling a story about tariffs and income taxes. Now, here's another fight the Democrats are going to have, and it's going to be very hard for them to fight this during the midterms. Listen to this.
At the turn of the century, our economy was rocking. This is 1900, 125 years ago. We had no income tax. And all we had was tariffs. All we had was tariffs. And we had so much money that we had the greatest businessmen of America get together to try to figure out how to spend it. That's who we were then. But then we had World War I and we had World War II.
Which President Trump mentioned in that original post. He mentioned the income tax liability for all these people, and he mentioned where we were and how World War II took so much out of people. And I'm thinking to myself, this stuff is so, how they tie the dots and everything here. Remember, this was from over a year ago. Howard Lutnick was saying that, and I've been playing it. And we were so rich, we had tariffs. Because it struck me. As someone who hates paying taxes, that struck me. It caught my eye. Like, wait a minute, is this the game plan? Is the game plan to get us to a point where we're no longer having to pay income taxes? And so now he's going to push this out too now, on top of everything else? Yeah, pin pulled.
And we felt we had a duty to rebuild the rest of the world. So here's what we did. We took down our protection. We took down our tariffs, and we turned instead and we taxed Americans so that we could export the power of our economy and save the rest of the world, which we did.
All right, so if mission was accomplished, if we started an income tax to save the rest of the world from Hitler, mission accomplished. But the Democrats and some Republicans went, wait a second, we can take money from our own people. We can decide at this point how much they have to pay, and we can take from them. And we're going to keep taking from them, and we're going to increase them. Remember, every argument you have heard probably over the last 20 or 30 years is how much? 20%, 30%, 50%, 15%. There's never been an argument put out there where you've seen politicians say, how about none? What? How about no income taxes? You can raise your hand in the chat and tell me if you've heard any politician, Republican or Democrat, president actually, who have advocated and has begun to talk about or began to talk about no income tax. I can't remember one. All I have heard is how much, what the number was going to be. I never heard anybody say, well, what if we just didn't do this anymore? Okay, let's not do that anymore. Who's going to raise their hand and say, no, we can't do that. We have to keep taxing them. Oh, I know who will. The Democrats. Which is why this is happening.
Now let me ask you a question. What decade should that have ended? Should it have ended in the 80s? The 90s? 2000? What in the world are we doing? We're letting the rest of the world eat our lunch. And it is time to make America great again.
You know, there are probably people in the audience, people watching online, people who watched when I showed it. I can tell you, I was watching it and I looked over at Ron and went, are they really going to go for this? Are they really thinking about this? Could this be another pin that they're going to pull? Could this even be reality? Is this something we can even aspire to? I was going to say, I bet. No, I know every single person watching this video right now, whether live or replay, would love to not have to pay taxes. Would gladly say, yeah, we can end this. What year was it supposed to be ended? It was supposed to be a temporary thing, and it has turned into a cash cow for the government to steal your money. So I know there's some heads turning like the RCA dog, because every time I mention no taxes, people are like, what? How? Well, obviously, if you know how to use a ledger, if you need this much to pay for stuff, and you're taking in this much, then you can begin to do this. Especially if you stop cutting expenses like USAID and sending money to Ukraine and everything else. Now that number looks so much more manageable. Democrats won't like this. So what would Trump do?
For the next couple of years, I think we'll substantially be cutting, and maybe cutting out completely, but we'll be cutting income tax. Could be almost completely cutting it, because the money we're taking in is going to be so large. And yet, other countries who have been ripping us off for many, many years, and many years they've just been ripping us to shreds.
So now that was last night. That was last night as he was talking to the troops, right after he mentioned about the young woman passing. And he dropped that nugget. Over the next couple of years, we're going to do away with taxes. Maybe none at all. So raise your hand the last time you heard another president even mentioning no taxes. So what do you think happens now? Now they are going to have to defend that. They are now going to, when I say they, the Democrats running for office are going to, excuse me, are you okay with no taxes?
Is that if you go back before the 20th century, there were no income taxes, there were no regulations on business. You could earn as much money as you want, leave 100% of it to your children with no taxes. Right. That's the world they want back. And to get it back, they need society to change. They need people to be less modern. They need people to want fewer things.
That's a time bomb right there. No, I think you should pay your fair share. But what if we don't need people to pay their fair share? What if, tariffs work? See, at that point, the Democrat Party dies.
Did you just float out the idea of getting rid of income taxes and replacing it with tariffs?
Well, okay.
Were you serious about that?
Yeah, sure, but why not? Because ready? Our country was the richest relatively in the 1880s and 1890s. A president who was assassinated named McKinley. He was the tariff king. He spoke beautifully of tariffs. His language was really beautiful. We will not allow the enemy to come in and take our jobs and take our factories and take our workers and take our families unless they pay a big price. And the big price is tariffs. And he'd speak like that, but he was right. And then around in the early 1900s, they switched over stupidly to, frankly, an income tax. And you know why? Because countries were putting a lot of pressure on America. We don't want to pay tariffs. Please don't you? Believe me, they control our politicians. If you look at the kind of numbers that these guys make then and now, but we had a commission meeting in the, I think it was 1887. Think of this problem. We were so rich, we had so much money, we didn't know what to do. So they set up a blue ribbon commission on tariffs, and the sole purpose is what to do with all the money we had. We were so rich because we were taxing other people for coming in and taking our jobs.
if we're going to raise enough money through tariffs to pay for everything, and we don't need to put our hands back in the pockets of Americans, what's your argument? There is no fair share. It doesn't exist. The only reason to pay taxes is to make sure everything's paid for. If everything's paid for, what do you need taxes for? They can't even answer that. Well, no, everyone should pay their... No, you don't... No. We don't need fair share anymore. We don't need anybody's. We don't even need Elon's. We're paying for it all with tariffs. So if everything's getting paid for, why do you still want to keep taking money from American people? Good luck with that one. I don't even know at that point how you even answer that question. Well, that means the reporters would actually have to ask it. You see, just as I said that to you, because the quick response from any Democrat is going to be fair share. And then, of course, it would well, what happens if it's all taken care of? That's impossible. I mean, just think about that. Every single one of these commies are running around saying fair share because they think everybody has to pay for even more. So if we don't have the newcomers, we don't have the war, we don't have this, we don't have that, and we've brought in enough, and it looks like we're going to continue bringing in this money, well, what do we need income tax for? And there's no answer to it. So the crux of this is that they are now going to have to fight that battle. Out of everything I've told you tonight, there's a whole nother battle you got to talk about. Because now what do you say? I don't know. If we don't need the money,